Okay, so just hello everyone, and just to recap what I just said, the purposes of this conference call is just to give you a demo of VFX. VFX is the Vault branded liquid files appliance, which a few of our clients use for transferring large files typically which are too big to email. So what we'll do first is we'll go through the process of logging in, and there are two ways to use VFX, using either the web interface or using the Outlook plugin. And so we'll go through the web interface first, then we'll go through the Outlook plugin and just show you what's involved in using that. So if we start with the web interface, every user has a login which is just their email address and a password. For our clients who are on Vault, the password is just their Vault password. For the Bentley firms which aren't on Vault at the moment, when you first go to log in, because we've told the client you're allowed to use it, to send files to anyone, not just to other Vault users. When you first go to log in, you'll be prompted. You'll put in your email address, and you'll be prompted to register. There's a register button down here. So the first time anyone who isn't on Vault uses this, they'll need to go through a registration process, which involves putting in your email address, clicking on a link in an email which you get sent, and you then have a password for using VFX, which can be managed in the same way that any web service manages your password, in terms of if you forget it, you can reset it by clicking on a link, that sort of thing. For the purposes of the demo, I'll just log in using my Vault account. So now once I've logged in, I'll get the option to send a message to someone. I'm just going to send a message to my Gmail account, and the reason I'm doing that is to show you what the experience is for someone what your client experience is going to be like when they receive the message. So if I go, you can see in here now I can type a message which is attached to the email. So and you can see on the right hand side there are a variety of options that can be specified with the message. The top one here, this require authentication of access or download. This means that when the end user when the client who you're corresponding with receives the email, it will have a link in it that they click on, and I'll show you that in a second. By ticking this box here, require authentication of access and download, it means that they have to log in before downloading the file. If you were using this to, say, send a brochure out to 1,000 people and you didn't want them all to have to log in to view the file, you could untick that box. There is also this access restriction which you can put in place, and you can see here the three different options for the access restrictions. It's basically saying that only the specified recipients can access it. Only the specified recipients and this local users is anyone who has an account on the VFX appliance, and then the bottom option is just anyone. So by leaving the only specified recipients can access option, it means that if your client was to forward it on to someone else, or someone else were to intercept the email, they wouldn't actually be able to access the file which had been sent to them unless they knew what the person's VFX password was. You can see also here that there's an option to set an expiry date on a message. By default, the expiry date is, I think, 3 weeks out. There is an option to extend that out, but there is a limit. You can't just set it to be like 2100. And that's because the VFX appliance is really built for transfer. It's not a portal, so it shouldn't be used for the permanent storage of documents. It's only really used to send documents to clients or receive documents from clients. So because this is a demo, I'm just going to set the expiry date to tomorrow. You also see there's this option to say the message expires after a certain number of downloads per recipient. If you wanted to, for example, not clog up the appliance with files. Once you knew the other person had got them, you could limit it to say 1 download per recipient. If you're sending this to multiple recipients, then the number of downloads per recipient is cumulative. So in other words, if you had 3 recipients and you set the option for message expires after to 1 download per recipient, after the first person downloaded it, the other 2 people in the message would not be able to download it. So that's not an option you want to pick. It's not smart enough to go, for example, if I have myself and 2 other parties on there, to go, well, Liam's allowed to download it once and the other 2 people are only allowed to download it once as well. You'll also see in here there's this link which says send a copy to myself. That means that I'll be CC'd in on the email which is sent from the appliance. You'll also see that there's this private message option. You can see that it won't, basically this doesn't include the text of this message. It's just, they just get a message saying there's a file for you to download. You can see here that at the moment it says this limitation is 750 megs. We've discussed increasing that to 1 gig per message. And you'll also see that there's a list here of blocked extensions. There are a number of extensions which you can't send to people. It's to stop people using it for things like propagating viruses, that sort of thing. So if, for example, you wanted to send someone a program file, which I don't think you will want to, but if you were to try and do that, the appliance would just say, no, you're not allowed to do that. There's then an option to, you can either drag and drop a file into this area here, or you can add a file by browsing through your file system. And if I had connection to a network drive, I'll be able to see the network drive as well. If I go through here, I'll just pick a PDF. This is a fairly small PDF, so it should attach fairly quickly. But I could send a larger file if that was what I was interested in. So I'll just attach that now. You'll also see that there's this box here which says auto send when current uploads are complete. I usually tick that. That's particularly useful if you're attaching a large file, because it means you don't have to sit here and monitor the message and wait until the upload's completed. It will just go, once a file upload is completed, bang, VFX will send the message out for you, which I find quite useful because it means you just leave the browser window in the background and you just forget about what you're doing. You just let it happen, knowing that the message will be sent once the upload's complete. And you'll see that's now sent the message. There is this message ID, and you get a couple of other details about it as well. If I now go across to my Gmail, I can see that I've now got the email from the VFX appliance, which contains the message I sent, and also a link to download the file. What I'm just going to do over here is log out from the appliance. I can then go back into my message over here, click here, and just put in my email address, my external email address. And now you'll see here it's said to confirm that it is actually my email address. What it's done is it's emailed me a validation code, which I can just go in here now and just go and copy, paste the validation code in, go over here, go validate, and I should then get the option to download the file once it's on. So it's just checking that there's no virus in the PDF. I think it wants me to check back in a minute. So if I go to, while we're waiting for that, I'll go, just give it a second. Refresh it. Okay, so there we go. So now it's now given me a link to download the file, and I get an option to download it. I'm not going to worry about doing that because I've already got a copy of it. But for the purposes of the demo, I could download the file, put it anywhere, and then act on it, and do whatever I wanted with it, and then I could send it back. When I'm logged in, if I go back to here, so when I'm logged in as the end user, I have the option to send files back, and the submission is essentially the same. It's just that the password here is the password that the person is registered for. The other interesting thing, the other useful part of the VFX appliance is this Outlook add-in. When you go to compose a new message, you'll see I have the Outlook add-in installed, and I now have the option to use this plugin to send attachments rather than attaching the files directly to the message. I also have an option here. You can see here that there's an option to configure the plugin to say that I can automatically, if I attempt to attach a file which is larger than 10 megs, the plugin will automatically use VFX to send it for me. What I'll just do now is I'll just go and write up another email again. I might send the mail through to you, Gary, if that's okay, just because there's no point in me sending that PDF to myself again. I can just go secure attach, pick the file I want to attach, and then here to and you'll see here I have the ability to set the same options up here that I did within the web interface. So I can again say that expires, say, on Saturday. I can limit the number of downloads. You'll see it's given me a status bar here as to how the upload is going. And I'll just go. And once that upload is completed, I can just send that message. And if I look in my sent items, you'll see this is the message which Gary will have received. It sticks the details. This is similar to the email that I received in my Gmail.